Greetings and salutations. Today we will be covering the case of the monster with 21 faces. In the annals of Japanese criminal history, a cryptic moniker emerges, that of the monster with 21 faces. And while the name does sound like it would belong to a comic book character or the title of an indie horror game, it is quite real, and it is directly tied to the Glico-Morinaga case, which unfolded in 1984. From kidnapping the president of one of the largest confectionery companies in Japan to threats of poisoning products, spreading fear and chaos through extortion, blackmail, and further threats of poisoning or having poisoned multiple products. The monster with 21 faces terrorized Japan for an entire year before vanishing just as quickly as he made himself known. In the shadowy hours of March 18th, 1984, the case of the monster with 21 faces unfurled, beginning with an abduction targeted at the Glico-Morinaga empire. This was accomplished by kidnapping the president of the company, Izaki. This kidnapping occurred thanks to a stolen key which had been pilfered from the adjacent home which belonged to Izaki's mother, Yoshi. The criminals had surprised her and bound her, using a severed telephone line to tie down the elderly woman. With their ill-gotten access secured, the masked men progressed into the house of Izaki, quickly ensnaring his wife, Mekiko, and his daughter, Mariko. Seeing her captors brandish what appeared to be firearms, but would later be found out to be toys, Mekiko offered the men money. However, one of them quickly responded, "Be quiet, money is irrelevant." After cutting more telephone line, the men would locate Izaki, who was bathing with his other two children, 4-year-old Yukiko and 11-year-old Etsuro. Izaki was quickly abducted, completely in the buff, and taken to a warehouse in Ibaraki, Osaka. After 3 long days of captivity, Izaki managed to wriggle free. Unfortunately, he was unable to identify his captors or provide police with even a hint of their motivations or desires. Several weeks after his abduction, the group would set fires to multiple vehicles on the company's premises. Then later, on April 16th, 1984, a plastic container filled with hydrochloric acid would be found inside a company building, once more in Ibaraki, Osaka, the very same city which Izaki was held captive. There would also be the letter sent to Izaki Gilko addressing the police, which stated, "To the Japanese police fools. Are you stupid? There are so many of you. What on earth are you doing? If you are real pros, try catching me. There's too much of a handicap, so I will give you a hint. There's no fellows in the Izaki's relatives. There's no fellows in Nishiomiya police. There's no fellows in flood fighting corps. The car I used is gray. Food was bought at Dahlia. If you want new info, beg for it in the newspaper. After telling you all this, you should be able to catch me. If you don't, you are tax thieves. Shall I kidnap the head director of the prefectural police?" From this letter, the police were able to garner a few things. 1. The monster at least knew who they were looking into. And 2. This guaranteed that this was a group that functioned rather well together. However, as the police had received their own message, another message was dispatched to the media, specifically taunting the police, stating, "Dear dumb police officers, don't tell a lie. All crimes begin with a lie, as we say in Japan. Don't you know that?" Something important to note about this letter was that it was written in hiragana with an Osaka dialect, which would potentially aid authorities narrowing down the list of suspects. Another letter would be received on April 23rd by both Sankei and Mainichi newspapers, as well as by the Koshin police station. It read, "To police fools, you shouldn't lie. If you lie, you steal. I also sent this to the Koshin police. Why are you lying? Don't hide things. Why are you complaining? You guys are having such a hard time, so I will give you a hint. I entered the factory from the side staff entrance. This time, the typewriter that was used was traced, and it was a pan writer. The letter also had some garbage attached to it. Following the escape of Izaki, the monster would become even more bold. He would send a letter that stated that they had laced 21 million worth of the company's confections with potassium cyanide soda, and later threatened to put them on the store shelves. However, none of the poisoned candies were ever found, but Gilco's products were outright removed from shelves, resulting in a loss of more than 20 million and the laying off of more than 450 part-time workers. By the end of the whole ordeal, example, Glico would have to report a total decrease in sales of more than 130 million. Later, on June 26, the monster would say he forgave the company, and subsequent harassment ceased. After this, he would choose yet another target, Morinaga, another confectionery company, along with food companies such as Marudai Ham and House Food Corporation, targeting them with similar campaigns, using the exact same alias. On October 1984, a letter addressed to Moms of the Nation, signed by the monster with 21 faces, was sent to Osaka news agencies, with a warning similar to those sent to Glico. It stated that 20 packages of the company's candy had been laced with deadly sodium cyanide. After receiving this letter, the police and public experienced a major sense of deja vu. As authorities searched stores in both Tokyo and Western Japan, they were able to find over a dozen lethal packages of the candy choco balls and angel pies before anyone was poisoned. These packages, strangely enough, had labels such as "Danger, contains toxin" put onto them. More tampered confections would be found later, with at least 21 lethal sweets being found. Later, on November 1st, 1984, a threatening letter from the monster with 21 faces arrived at the Tokyo home of Morinaga Dairy Vice President Mitsuo Yamada. It went as follows: "To President, you saw our power, didn't you? If you disobey us, we will destroy your company. You will get killed. Decide whether you want to give us money or do you want to see your company destroyed. Tell us in the Mainichi newspaper on either the 5th or the 6th of November. Use the missing persons advertisement. Use the words in the reply: Jiro, Moringa, mother, police, bad friend, money, meal. As we said before, we want 200 million yen. Signed, Monster with 21 faces." The company responded on November the 6th by placing a missing persons advertisement in the newspaper as designated, stating, "Dear Jiro, bad friend disappeared. Come back. Warm meal is waiting. Mother, Chiyoko." 2 letters from the monster with 21 faces would be sent to House Foods on November 7th. Furthermore, Morinaga and company was pushed to the brink and had to drastically reduce production by 90% that day due to the threat of poisonings. The question: why were these companies targeted, and what were the motives behind the monster's letters, particularly the letters to the authorities, circulated but remained unanswered. The saga of the monster with 21 faces would eventually come to an end. However, it would not be because he was captured, since the monster would remain elusive, slipping through the fingers of justice, but rather it appears that things had gotten out of hand, as Superintendent Yamamoto of Shiga Prefecture had been driven to such despair over the police's inability to capture the monster that he would proceed to self-terminate by immolation on August 1985. 5 days after the event, on August 12th, the monster would send his final message to the media. Yamamoto of Shiga Prefecture Police died. How stupid of him. We've got no friends or secret hiding places in Shiga. It's Yoshino or Shikata who should have died. What have they been doing for as long as 1 year and 5 months? Don't let bad guys like us get away with it. There are many more fools who want to copy us. No career. Yamamoto died like a man, so we decided to give our condolences. We decided to forget about torturing food-making companies. If anyone blackmails the food-making companies, it is not us, but someone copying us. We are bad guys. That means we've got more to do other than bullying companies. It's fun to lead a bad man's life. The monster with 21 faces. After this chilling message, which casts a sinister shadow, yet pointed to some amount of remorse over the loss of Yamamoto, the monster would vanish, never to appear again. And sadly, the statute of limitations for both the kidnappings and the poisonings ran out in February of 2000. It must be noted that over 1 million police officers were believed to have worked on this case, with thousands of persons of interest being investigated. Unfortunately, even though major suspects would be identified, no one would ever be charged. Now onto the suspects. As the monster with 21 faces continued to grip the nation in fear, a figure would emerge and quickly became one of the prime suspects in this case. Dubbed the Videotape Man, this enigmatic individual stepped into the spotlight while wearing a Yorimuri Giants baseball cap. His presence marked a turning point in the investigation. The events which led to his identification was a moment captured by a security camera of a man clandestinely placing Glico chocolate on a store shelf. This seemingly innocuous act seemed to match almost perfectly the acts of the monster with 21 faces. However, he would remain elusive, only the image of the videotaped man ever existing. Even with his image and depiction being publicly disseminated by authorities, they would be no closer in locating this individual. As the investigation continued, yet another figure would emerge, one who was described primarily due to his eyes. This was the fox-eyed man. On June 28, 1984, 2 days after the monster agreed to stop harassing Marudai Ham in exchange for 50 million yen, the police would come close to capturing someone who they believed was one of the masterminds behind the monster. An investigator had disguised himself as an employee of the company and followed the monster's instructions for the money exchange. As he was dropping off the money, he noticed a rather suspicious man watching him. He would go on to describe this man as rather well-built, large, wearing sunglasses, and with his hair cut short. He also noted that the hair was permed. It was due to a particular quote from this investigator that the fox-eyed man would gain his name. Specifically, the investigator stated that the man had eyes like those of a fox. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, the investigator would lose track of this man, and so yet again the monster got away. Within this intricate web of investigation, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police would quickly identify the son of a very well-known yakuza member as a potential suspect. This individual was named Manabu Miyazaki, and his presence would cause ripples within the investigation. Both his demeanor and his mystique would cause a large amount of attention to be drawn to him, as he stood under heavier scrutiny than the average, in part to also having been involved with a labor dispute against Glico. However, no matter how hard the authorities attempted to connect him with the case, his alibis were checked and rechecked, everything checked out, and they could go no further. With the information gathered, a timeline can be formed to better understand this case. March 18th, 1984, 2 masked men armed with toy guns break into the home of Izeki Glico president Katsuya Izeki by using a key stolen from the neighboring house, which belonged to the man's mother. They proceed to tie up his family and kidnap the man as he is showering with 2 of his kids. April 8th, 1984, the monster with 21 faces sends a letter to the police threatening to poison Glico products. They go on to demand money while challenging police to catch them. April 10th, 1984, the monster sends letters to the media taunting the police and bragging about their power and reach. May 10th, 1984, the monster sends letters to Glico claiming to have poisoned their products with potassium cyanide. Glico products are then removed from shelves, resulting in significant financial losses. June 28th, 1984, the monster demands 50 million yen from Marudai Ham in exchange for stopping the harassment. The police come close to capturing one of the suspected masterminds, known as the Fox-Eyed Man, during the money exchange. However, he managed to escape. August 1985, Police Superintendent Yamamoto dies by self-termination via immolation. 5 days later, the monster sends its final message, taunting police for Yamamoto's death, then claiming to cease their activities. June 1995, the statute of limitation for the kidnapping expires. February 2000, the statute of limitations expires for the attempted poisonings. As things come to a close, we are left with a tantalizing taste of unanswered questions. The riddle of why were food companies targeted, and how was the monster with 21 faces able to gain access to so many facilities, along with who was the fox-eyed man and who was the videotaped man, remain questions whose answers are just out of reach. If you remained with me until the end, I thank you, and I do hope you stay tuned and subscribe for more content.